Please. I can't breathe.
Elena's voice barely carried over the drumming rain as she pressed herself against the locked front door. Her oxygen tank sat beside her on the covered porch, the clear tubing snaking from her nose, fogged with each labored breath. Water streamed through gaps in the awning, soaking her hospital gown and the thin robe she'd managed to grab. Inside the house, her house, warm light spilled across hardwood floors she'd polished for 30 years. Outside, the storm clawed at everything it could reach. "You made your choice," came the voice through the door, cold as January steel. Victoria's designer heels clicked across the marble foyer Elena had saved for months to install. "You can sit out there until you learn to respect boundaries." "Boundaries?" Elena's chest hitched, each word a struggle. "This is my home. My medicine is inside, my nebulizer." "Your son pays the mortgage now." Victoria cut through the wood like a blade. "And I pay for peace in this house. You've disrupted that peace for the last time." From deeper inside came another voice, younger, sharper. "She's probably recording this on her phone." Victoria's sister Natalie laughed. "Going to play victim on social media." Elena's fingers fumbled for her phone, but her arthritis-swollen knuckles couldn't manage the screen in the rain. She pulled the oxygen cannula closer to her face, fighting for each breath as her COPD flared in the cold, damp air. "Victoria, please. The doctor said stress makes it worse." "The doctor doesn't live here." Victoria's voice carried the same tone she used with subordinates at her law firm. "Neither do you anymore. Not until you understand that I make the rules now." Elena slumped against the doorframe, conserving strength she didn't have. Through the sidelight windows, she could see the living room she'd decorated for James's first Christmas, the mantel where his kindergarten drawings still hung in frames Victoria hadn't yet removed. The oxygen concentrator hummed somewhere inside, her lifeline, plugged into the wall 20 feet away but might as well have been on Mars. "James will see this," Elena whispered, more to herself than to the door. "James will see what I tell him to see," Victoria replied, her voice moving closer to the crack. "That his mother had another episode, that she needed fresh air to calm down, that I couldn't reason with her hysterics." The rain intensified, driving sideways now. Elena pulled her robe tighter, but the thin fabric was already soaked through. Her lips tinged blue around the oxygen tube. Inside, the soft pop of a wine cork. Natalie's giggle. The sound of normalcy continuing while a 70-year-old woman with failing lungs shivered on a porch. Headlights swept across the driveway. James had left the office early, something he never did, but the quarterly reports could wait. He'd stopped by the medical supply store to pick up the heated humidifier attachment Mom's pulmonologist had ordered, the one that would help her breathe easier through the winter months. The small box sat on his passenger seat, wrapped in the cheerful paper he'd grabbed from the hospital gift shop. He'd been planning to surprise her, to set it up quietly while she napped, then sit with her for the evening news and maybe that cooking show she loved where the host made everything look effortless. The headlights caught something wrong. A small figure huddled on the porch. His foot hit the brake before his mind processed what he was seeing. "No." The word punched out of him. He threw the truck in park and ran, dress shoes slipping on wet pavement. The porch light illuminated his mother like a tableau of abandonment. Hospital gown plastered to frail shoulders. Oxygen tank beside her like a faithful dog, her face gray pale except for the blue tinge around her mouth. "Mom?" He dropped to his knees beside her, hands hovering, afraid to jostle the tubing. "What happened? How long have you been?" She tried to smile, that automatic response she'd perfected through decades of not wanting to worry him. "You came home early," she managed between shallow breaths. "I knew you would." He was already shrugging out of his suit jacket, wrapping it around her shoulders. The fabric absorbed rain like a sponge, but it was dry and warm from his body heat. His eyes tracked to the door, locked. To the windows, curtains drawn now, as if someone had just closed them. To the soft glow of interior lights that painted everything inside golden and safe. "Who did this?" His voice carried a note his mother hadn't heard since he was 17, and found out someone had been bullying his girlfriend. "Who locked you out here?" "Don't be angry," Elena whispered, her hand finding his arm. "I don't want to cause more trouble." "Trouble?" He lifted her gently, one arm supporting her back, the other careful not to tangle the oxygen line. She weighed nothing, bird bones and determination. "Mom, you could have..." He couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't voice the word that hung between them like smoke. "I know," she said quietly, "but I'm still here." He carried her to the covered swing at the far end of the porch, the one spot the rain couldn't reach. Setting her down with infinite care, he pulled out his phone and started recording, angling it toward the front door where voices drifted through the wood. "Watch this," he told the camera, his voice steady as bedrock. "Watch what I found when I came home early to surprise my mom." 2 hours earlier, the house had hummed with the kind of aggressive tidiness that erases people along with dust. Victoria moved through the rooms like a general inspecting troops, straightening picture frames that weren't crooked, fluffing pillows that weren't flat. Everything had to be perfect. The house was her stage and perfection was her performance. "This has to go," she said, lifting a ceramic angel from the side table. It was chipped along one wing, painted in the gentle pastels of something made by loving hands rather than machines. Elena, settled in her recliner with the nebulizer mask covering half her face, spoke through the medical haze. "James made that in 3rd grade art class." "It's juvenile," Victoria replied, setting it aside with the other items destined for donation. "We're not running a museum of elementary school crafts." Natalie emerged from the kitchen, wine glass already half empty though it wasn't yet 4 o'clock. "God, the smell of that breathing treatment is so clinical. Can't she do that in her bedroom?" "She needs to be near the oxygen concentrator," Elena said quietly, removing the mask to speak. "It doesn't reach to the bedroom." "Then maybe it's time to consider other arrangements," Victoria said, her voice carrying the careful neutrality she used when delivering bad news to clients. "Adult living facilities have medical equipment, trained staff. It might be healthier." Elena's hands stilled on the nebulizer. "You want me to move to a nursing home?" "I want James to have a marriage that isn't dominated by medical schedules and equipment humming all night," Victoria replied. "I want dinner conversations that aren't about doctor appointments and medication side effects. I want a living room that doesn't smell like a hospital." "I want to breathe," Elena said simply. Natalie laughed, the sound sharp as breaking glass. "Drama much?" Victoria's jaw tightened. She'd been building this argument for months, laying groundwork with James about Mom's increasing needs and the strain on everyone. But Elena's quiet dignity kept getting in the way of the narrative. "Let me be clearer," Victoria said, moving closer to the recliner. "This house runs on my schedule now. Dinner at 7:30, not 5:15 when your medications make you hungry. The thermostat stays at 72, not 78 because you're always cold. The living room is for entertaining, not for medical equipment and afternoon naps." Elena looked up at her daughter-in-law, seeing something she'd hoped never to see in this house: cruelty dressed as practicality. "Victoria," she said gently, "I'm not trying to make your life difficult." "But you are making it difficult," Victoria replied. "Every breath you take sounds like an accusation. Every time you move slowly, it's a performance of how much James should feel guilty. Every medical crisis becomes a referendum on whether he's a good son. That's not true, isn't it?" Victoria's voice rose slightly. "He can't go on business trips because what if you have an attack? He can't stay late at the office because you need dinner at 5. He can't even sleep through the night because your oxygen machine is so loud." Elena's chest tightened. Whether from emotion or COPD, she couldn't tell. "He never complained. Because he's a good man who's been trained to sacrifice his happiness for your comfort." Victoria's mask slipped completely. "And I won't be married to a martyr." The nebulizer timer chimed. Elena removed the mask, her breathing already labored without it. What do you want me to do? I want you to understand that this is my house now. My marriage, my rules. Victoria's smile was sharp as winter. And if you can't live by those rules, you can live somewhere else. Somewhere else meaning what exactly? Somewhere else meaning not here. Elena gripped the arms of her recliner, trying to steady herself as the room spun slightly. The stress was triggering her symptoms: chest tightening, breath shortening, the familiar panic of not getting enough air. I need to use the bathroom, she said, reaching for her portable oxygen tank. Of course you do, Natalie muttered, right in the middle of an important conversation. Elena stood slowly, the tank's wheels catching on the carpet. She made it 3 steps before Victoria's hand landed on her arm. Actually, Victoria said, I think you need some fresh air first. Clear your head. Get some perspective. I need to use the bathroom, Elena repeated, confusion clouding her features. You need to step outside and think about what kind of person you want to be in this house, Victoria said, her grip tightening. Whether you want to be respectful or continue being disruptive. I don't understand. Victoria guided her toward the front door, Natalie following with predatory interest. You understand perfectly. You just don't like the answer. Elena's feet tangled as Victoria opened the door. Rain slashed through the opening, immediately soaking the doormat. Victoria, it's storming. I can't. My breathing. Your breathing will improve when you stop fighting me on everything, Victoria said and pushed. It wasn't violent. It wasn't a shove. It was the kind of firm pressure you'd use to guide someone away from a cliff. Except Elena was being guided toward one instead of away. She stumbled across the threshold, oxygen tank bouncing behind her. The door clicked shut before she could turn around. Let me back in, she called, her voice already strained. Please, I need my medication. Through the door. You need to learn respect. Elena pulled her robe tight and sat heavily in the porch chair, rain misting through the screens. Inside, she could hear Natalie's voice. How long are you going to leave her out there? Until she understands, Victoria replied. What if James comes home? James will see a woman who chose to have a tantrum instead of a reasonable conversation. Elena closed her eyes and focused on breathing. In for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 6. The technique her respiratory therapist had taught her. Don't panic. Panic makes it worse. Just breathe what you can breathe. The storm intensified. The oxygen tank's gauge showed half full, maybe 2 hours if she didn't exert herself. She pulled out her phone to call James, but her hands were shaking too badly to dial. Headlights. Finally. James? His name came out as barely a whisper. He materialized through the rain like an answer to prayer, dress clothes already soaked, his face cycling through emotions too fast to track. Confusion, recognition, horror, rage. Mom. Jesus Christ, Mom. He lifted her like she weighed nothing, carrying her to the dry end of the porch. How long? How long have you been out here? Not long, she lied because protecting him was a habit stronger than breathing. He set his phone to record and faced the door. I want everyone to see this, he said to the camera, his voice deadly quiet. I want witnesses. He didn't knock. He used his key, the one Victoria didn't know he'd never given back, and walked into warmth and light and the sound of women's laughter. Honey, Victoria's voice pitched high with surprise. You're home early. We were just... Sit down. His voice cut through her performance like a blade through silk. Both of you. Sit down and don't move. Victoria's smile flickered. James, whatever you think. I think I found my 70-year-old mother with COPD locked outside in a thunderstorm. He held up his phone, still recording. I think she's been out there long enough for her lips to turn blue. I think her oxygen tank is nearly empty because she's been rationing it to make it last. Natalie's wine glass trembled in her hand. It's not what it looks like. It looks like attempted murder, he said, and the words hung in the air like smoke from a fire. Victoria found her lawyer voice. Don't be dramatic. She needed to cool down. She was being unreasonable about house rules. House rules. He repeated the words like they tasted bitter. What house rules require a sick woman to sit in a storm? The rules that say I won't be manipulated by medical drama. Victoria snapped, her mask falling completely. She pulls this every time she doesn't get her way. Suddenly she can't breathe. Suddenly she needs help. Suddenly everyone has to drop everything for poor Elena. James stared at his wife as if seeing her for the first time. She has COPD, Victoria. It's not drama. It's not manipulation. It's a disease that makes it hard to breathe. It's a disease that makes it convenient to control everyone around her. Victoria shot back. The slap came so fast even James was surprised by it. His palm connected with Victoria's cheek with a sound like a book slamming shut. "James!" Natalie shrieked. He stared at his hand, then at Victoria's shocked face. "I have never hit anyone in my life," he said quietly. "Not once. But if you ever put my mother in danger again, I will do worse than slap you." Victoria's hand pressed to her cheek, tears of shock and rage making her mascara run. "You can't?" "I can do whatever I want in my house," he said. "Which this is. My house. My mortgage. My mother. My rules." He turned to Natalie. "Get out. Now. Don't come back. You can't throw me out. Watch me." He pulled out his phone again. "I'm calling the police. You can leave voluntarily or wait for them to escort you." Natalie grabbed her purse and fled, leaving her sister standing alone in the living room with a red handprint blooming on her face. James turned back to Victoria. "Pack a bag. You have 10 minutes. James, please. 10 minutes or I pack it for you. Your choice." She went upstairs. He heard drawers slamming, hangers rattling, the sounds of a life being dismantled at high speed. He walked back to the porch where Elena sat wrapped in his suit jacket, color slowly returning to her lips. "How do you feel?" "Tired," she admitted. "Scared." "You don't have to be scared anymore," he said, sitting beside her. "I promise you that." She leaned against his shoulder. "I don't want to be the reason your marriage ends." "You're not," he said firmly. "She is. What she did tonight, this isn't who I married. Or maybe it is, and I just didn't want to see it." Victoria appeared in the doorway, suitcase in hand, eyes red with tears and rage. "This isn't over," she said. "Yes, it is." He didn't even look at her. "Don't come back without calling first. Don't call unless it's about divorce papers. You'll regret this." "The only thing I regret," he said, finally meeting her eyes, "is not seeing what you really are before tonight." The door closed. The lock turned. The house exhaled. Elena coughed, a deep, rattling sound that made James wince. "Let's get you inside," he said. "Get you warmed up. Get your medications sorted." "The humidifier attachment," she remembered. "You brought it." "Still in the truck," he said, "along with some soup from that deli you like. I was going to surprise you." "You did surprise me," she said, smiling for the first time that evening. "You saved me." He helped her to her feet, one arm around her waist, the other carrying the oxygen tank. "You raised me to know right from wrong," he said. "Tonight was just applied learning." Inside, he turned the thermostat to 78, plugged in the nebulizer, and made tea with too much honey while Elena settled into her recliner with the ceramic angel, chips and all, back on the side table where it belonged. The house felt different, lighter, like something poisonous had been extracted. "James?" Elena's voice was soft. "Yeah, Mom? Thank you for coming home early." He kissed her forehead. "Thank you for still being here when I did." Outside, the storm raged on. Inside, a son and his mother watched the cooking show where everything looked effortless, and for the first time in months it actually was. What would you do if you came home to find your mother locked outside in a storm? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that matter. What happens when a son comes home early to find his sick mother locked outside in a freezing storm by his own wife?